Welcome to Forcing Function Hour. I'm your host, Chris Sparks. This is the best of 2022 episode highlighting 5 of our favorite moments from the past year. Lots of stellar guests on Forcing Function Hour this year, so it was really tough to limit down to just 5. Blake Eastman is the founder of the Nonverbal Group, a longtime professional poker player and the creator of Beyond Tells, the largest behavioral study ever conducted on poker players. Blake's passion is using visual feedback to teach leaders and teams how to better interpret nonverbal signals to monitor the information that their body is giving off. In this highlight, Blake debunks the myth of the poker face. Poker players actually give the most information away through their efforts to conceal. Blake shares how being sociable at the poker table unlocks other players' paradigms, thus being able to accurately interpret their behavior.
In a lot of ways, people overcorrect. So this is the joke. The players that dedicate a lot of effort to not giving off behavioral information or being like, let's assume like your stoic poker player, right? They're in fact easier for me to process than the players that move a lot. And the reason why is if you perform behavior in the same way every single hand, you're probably not going to be that good at it. So like in the super high roller, there's like a couple of players that like if you showed the average person these people, they'd be like, wow, how are they so still? They're not giving away any information at all. When in reality, when I get hired to break them down, I'm like, okay, good, this is going to be easy. As opposed to somebody who's moving around all the way, because it's less noise to filter. And it's easier for me to target where to look at. So for example, like if a player is sitting here and for those of you listening, I have like 2 hands on top of each other. And let's say they're always like this in big spots. What I will find is sometimes they'll put more pressure in their hands in certain spots and not in others, right? So, and this happens for even like the world's best players. Like people think that they're immune and they're just really not. Because what they're not realizing is they're dedicating more cognition to not giving something off. And because of that, they're becoming way more still. And it's not stillness that's the tell. It's the intensity of stillness that's the tell. So it's like, oh, I don't want to be called in this spot. And some players just, they don't even have an internal dialogue. It's just stuff that they do and don't realize it. And it gets kind of confusing when you're watching it sometimes. And you're like, is this person really doing it? Like, is this really happening? And it's like, oh, yeah. And we go back years and years and years. What's so great about online footage is that you have all that data. And then there's other thing like over calibration, right? So we say there's 2 kind of concealment strategies. One's everything is fine, and one's absolute stillness. So everything is fine is like they just act like everything is fine, right? And then certain players, they don't move that much. They just seem to not change. But then players like over calibrate, like they try to show you that everything is really fine. So they'll say things, or they'll like in the middle of a really big spot, like just start taking a drink of water or take out their phone. And you sort of have to reverse engineer like, all right, is this player overcompensating and trying to communicate that everything is fine? Or is this player actually like, I have 0 cares in the world because I'm nutted right now and good luck? And that's a puzzle that depends on the player's personality and your experience and so on and so forth. So it's like navigating that world is it gets pretty interesting. You're able to reverse engineer how a player is actually thinking or their school of thought or approach. And I don't think people interact socially enough to really unlock that world. And when you do, it's incredibly valuable.